Are you ready to go, Mataji?
Yeah, we are live.
Okay.
Maybe a minute more and you can start. Nice, you can start, Mataji.
Hi, Krishna, and I welcome everybody to another Wednesday evening at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Today is a Bhagavad Gita class, or simply put, a class on more of the basics. And before we start the class today, we would like to start with the Mangalacharang Prayers. That's what we always do. They're prayers to our acharyas, founding fathers, and those who bring us down in the parampara. We take their blessings. We take the blessings of the Gurus and the Vaishnavas, so that we may present the authority and properly whatever it is that we are sharing with all of you today. So we'll do the Mangalacharang prayers and take their blessings before we start anything else. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nitai Name Neche Name Hate Shraddha Mulya Nam Dite Chere. Nitai Name Neche Name Hate Shraddha Mulya Nam Dite Chere. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Are you going to? Okay. So the next thing we will do is sing Jai Radha Madhav. It's a short, sweet song that we always sing before we start our lectures. It is an appreciation of the Lord, and in a way, it is to accept His mercy before we start presenting anything about Him or any subject matter related to Him. It is a standard format in ISKCON temples to do the Jai Radha Madhav song. So we will do that, and then we'll go on to the lecture for the day. Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jayo Girivaradhari, Jayo Girivaradhari, Jayo Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Vihari, Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tiravana Chari, Yamuna Tiravana Chari, Jayo Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Vihari, Jayo Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Vihari, Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jayo Girivaradhari, Jayo Girivaradhari, Jayo Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Vihari, Jayo Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Vihari. Usually our Wednesday lectures are connected in some way to the Bhagavad Gita. We do either a shloka from the Bhagavad Gita or we cover a certain part of the chapter. For the past few times that I have done the classes, I have chosen to focus on some of the other books that Srila Prabhupada has written. So I call them Srila Prabhupada's Little Gems. And we've been doing some of them so far. We did Birth and Death, and we had a very nice opportunity to cover the Light of the Bhagavad last time. It was such a beautiful book written for a specific purpose. So all of these books cover basically points from the Bhagavad Gita. So we are still on topic, but they are made and created for certain different styles and types of audiences. The books are meant to be precise, concise, and to the point. They aim at specific audiences, and based on the audience, the type of presentation and the level of detail of the subject matter changes. But they're all Srila Prabhupada's own voice. They're all his personal writings. And just as we read the Bhagavad Gita and we hear his voice in every verse, in every shloka, when we open these small little books that we distribute so eagerly to everybody else, we can hear Srila Prabhupada's voice coming through, trying to bring the reader just that much closer to Krishna, bringing him that much closer to the light, so they can see better and know better who they are, what their relationship is with the Supreme, and how they can benefit from knowing a little bit more, how they can find their way back home. So today I picked up another book. Today we'll be doing Civilization and Transcendence. So I wasn't very sure when I picked up the book if this was something that would work for a Wednesday lecture. I was very hesitant, but I was very pleasantly surprised to see that this book was an amazing find. They are truly Prabhupada's little gems, because when we present Prabhupada's writings, we usually are out there distributing the Bhagavad Gita, we're distributing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and these small little books are generally, passed along, but we focus on the main ones. And getting this opportunity to read these small books is certainly a very, very great opportunity for me and a privilege, because I get to see that part of Srila Prabhupada that I will not be able to see in the large books alone. This is Prabhupada trying to reach out to people who need a little bit more. He's trying to connect with the audience, and he's trying to bring Krishna to them. And depending on the audience, his presentation slightly changes. So we're able to see how he is preaching according to time, place, and circumstance. And yet the message is constantly the same. there's a lot of depth and joy in reading Srila Prabhupada's books, because when you've read the Bhagavad Gita and you've had a chance to dabble your fingers in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and you come into these little gems, you get a chance to see that it's always Srila Prabhupada. There's this deep flavor in everything he has to say. He's just, there's so much ras in everything he says. And like he once said, how much can I preach as a person? But if I distribute his books, and if the person receiving the books would read just one page, maybe one paragraph, no, just one word, they would so much more benefit, because it's the Acharya himself. So with that attitude and approach, let's see what this book is offering. So I have a PPT that I made for this purpose. So let me share with you. Screen, go. First of all, I beg forgiveness for any offenses, any mistakes that there might be in the PPT or any of the work that I'm doing. If there's any mistakes in anything I'm saying, please feel free to let me know and help me correct myself. I offer my obeisances to my Shiksha Guru, His Grace Srivas Pandit Prabhu, and to my Guru Maharaj, Vaisheshika Maharaj, under whose tutelage and guidance I have I've taken a few baby steps towards this wonderful philosophy and this great opportunity of this lifetime. I present to honor them and to purify myself. There is no greater gain. So here is the book. Let me slideshow it for you. Okay, so there we go. Mataji, can you see it? We good?
Yeah, looks good, Mataji.
Okay. So you must be wondering why it says Bhavan's Journal Questionnaire. Well, if you open Civilization and Transcendence, the book will explain that this was never really made as a book. Bhavan's Journal is an Indian magazine. They sent out a questionnaire to all these leading proponents of spirituality, Bhakti, Jnana, all these groups. And they sent out a questionnaire and asked them to respond to it. And I think Pushta Krishna Prabhu is asking the questions to Srila Prabhupada. There's a list of about 14 questions on the questionnaire. And Srila Prabhupada takes us through this beautiful walk to Krishna consciousness. And I don't know if it worked out so beautifully because Srila Prabhupada wove it that way, or if the journal's questionnaire was really that good that it kind of, the strings strung together. I would bet on Srila Prabhupada. But the flow of questions have gone so beautifully in this book, starting from a basic question of what is material progress and where are we going, to the point of how do I love God and how do I make religion work? How can religion work for me? So we'll start with the first one. So this was in 1976. It was done on June 28th. And if you see, it's actually it's like a transcript of questions and answers. So whatever I am giving you, 85% of it is Srila Prabhupada's own words. Only 15 to 18% of it would be my addition, because as I said, what can I teach? I will leave it to the Acharya. So let's look at the first one. So before we start, my Guru Maharaj always recommends that we understand what we're trying to teach, and we start with the words itself. So he chose these words, civilization and transcendence. So I was curious to know what was the exact meaning of these two words. Civilization, society, culture, and way of life of a particular area. How do we live? How do we interact? What do we do socially and personally on a daily basis? Everything adds up to civilization. It is basically our way of life. And in this sense, it is our material way of life. Transcendence is a situation where you experience the extraordinary or the beyond human experience. To realize it's something more, something greater, bigger, beyond you. That would be transcendence. And trying to understand the interpolation between these two, trying to understand the connection between who we are, what we are, how we are, and our connection with this extraordinary, the Supreme, with whom we don't really connect on a daily basis. What is our connection with him is what this book will slowly explain as the threads unravel and the picture starts to unfold. That's what we will see. It's a list of questions. So we'll start off with question number 1. So question number 1. So these titles, I'm not sure if I think it was just a questionnaire. So these titles were added in as the book was published, but they're very nice titles. The first one goes, Religion with No Conception of God. Let's see what that is about. So the question is, Is the influence of religion over the masses on the wane? Now remember, this question was asked 1970s. We are now in 2022. This is just as, I was amazed at the fact that these questions are just as relevant today as they were at the time they were asked. I was surprised that these questions were even being asked at that time, because for me, in this era, that time was more spiritual than now. I'm thinking it's waning. And yet, these questions have been asked again and again over time, which means that people have been dabbling in these questions, trying to find solutions for quite a long time. Srila Prabhupada answers this question by saying, is the influence of religion waning? Are we losing, is religion dying away? Is it not holding the grip on the masses? And he says, yes. So Srila Prabhupada picks up Srimad Bhagavatam 12.2.1, and in it, maybe I can recite. Let's touch Srimad Bhagavatam and see what it says. Shri Sukha Uvacha, Tataschanudinam dharma satyam saucham shamadaya kalena balina rajan nangshantyayur palam smriti. In Kali Yuga, which is this age, in Kali Yuga, this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, there shall be a waning of these qualities: religiosity, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, memory, bodily strength, duration of life, and mercy. All of these. So Srila Prabhupada says, these qualities that make us human, that define our humanity, they start to go down in the age of Kali. And why do you think they go down? He says, Prabhupada quotes these as human assets. These are our real assets, not the buildings, the money in the bank, the shares online. None of this. It's these that are our real assets. And he says the human assets, the qualities that make a human being distinct from animals, will slowly fade away. And similarly, in the process of the fading away of these human qualities, religion too will practically vanish. He says that by religion vanishing, what happens is that slowly we will start to become more and more degraded. So human will become more and more like animals. Srila Prabhupada says, when there is no religion, human beings are simply animals. He will reinforce this in the questions that come again and again as we go along. And in the point of explaining, so whatever I'm picking up, mostly it's from the book, it's Srila Prabhupada's own words, it's beautiful. He says, a dog does not understand what religion is. A dog is a living being, but he has no interest in the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita. This is the distinction between human and animal. A human being who behaves as uninterested as an animal towards religion is only as good as an animal. So he says, when human beings become uninterested in religion, they are becoming like animals. And the leaders of our countries, he goes on to say, maintaining us in this animal-like existence, are trying to create things like the United Nations. And he says, what kind of United Nations are you creating when there are no people, only animals? So he laughs and calls it Society for United Animals, because that's what we are. We're more animalistic than human in our propensities and in our attributes. So the leaders want us to be animals, and by side, they try to create these United Nations. But what is this Society for United Animals? Says Srila Prabhupada. In the science of logic, he says, even if you think by science, man is a rational animal. The ability to think, to pick and choose for himself, right and wrong and stuff. That rationality, when it goes missing, does not one automatically become animalistic? That is his question. Marx says religion is the opium of the people. People use it like an addiction. It's just something they need and they have it. But communists, so Prabhupada explains that Marx has this attitude. He says religion is the opium of the people. And Prabhupada explains that communists are very adamant against God realization, God consciousness, because they think religion has spoiled society. The whole social atmosphere has been spoiled by religion. Religion, they feel, has been misused. But Prabhupada says religion might have been misused, but that is no excuse to remove religion altogether. Religion should not be avoided just because a few people have misused it in the wrong way. He sets the example of a cataract. He says, if your eye is giving you some trouble because of a cataract, you shouldn't pluck out your eye. You should only remove the cataract. And in a similar way, we should not try to completely evade religion, but instead try to understand what is the real purpose of religion. What is real religion? Real religion, says Srila Prabhupada, means God's order. And he brings out Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.19 to support his point of view. Let's hear that. It says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam na vai vidur rashayo napi deva na siddha mukhya asura manushya kuto nu vidyadhara charanatya. Real religious principles are enacted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although fully situated in the mode of goodness, even the great rishis who occupy the topmost planets cannot ascertain the real religious principles, nor can the demigods or the leaders of the Siddhalok, to say nothing of the Asuras and ordinary human beings, Vidyadharas or Charanas. Religion means the order of God. Just like law means the order of a state, for spirituality, religion is the order of God. If in your social system, if in your state, there is no law and order, what will happen? It's chaos, right? So he says simply, if you don't have law and order, people will create their own law and order. Same way, if you don't accept and follow the right religion, in society, all kinds of religion will start popping up because people are free to create their own. Today, this is what is going on in the name of religion, he says. People have no conception of God, and therefore they have no order to follow. He says, when you go up to someone and say, in a religion, you go up to them and say, who is God? You don't get a proper answer. They're not able to define who is God, what does he look like, what does he wear, how does he hold himself. If you ask him, can you describe your God? It's very difficult for most religions to do that. And yet, he says, for us Krishna conscious, it's the simplest of things. And he instantly quotes, Venum kvanantam aravinda dalaya taksham varhavatamsam asitambuja sundarangam kandarpakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So the Brahma Samhita 5:30, and he's quoting, he says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept at playing on his flute, whose eyes are like petals of a blooming lotus, whose head is bedecked with peacock flower, whose figure of beauty is tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and whose unique loveliness charms millions of cupids. That is my Lord. That is how he looks. That is how charming he is. That is real religion. And religion is the process of following God's order. So is the influence of religion over the masses on the wane? Yes, because people don't know who is God. They're not able to identify and connect with him. And without that, there's no way they can follow an order of somebody they don't know. And therefore, there is no real religion. Let's see the next one. Progress beyond progress. So as the picture gives you a clue, we are going to talk about progress in two ways. The question is, the traditional charge against Hinduism is that it is fatalistic. It inhibits progress by making people slaves to the belief in inevitability of what is to happen. How far is this charge true? Basically, it means, we have a tendency to say, it was fate. It's just my destiny. Que sera, sera. It's a very famous thing. Whatever will be, will be. Future is not for us to see. Que sera, sera. So it's like that. We have this mentality that, whatever comes, it's Krishna's will. It is. So he says this Hinduism has an attitude of curbing an effort. It makes people think, makes them complacent and kind of stagnates them. And this is a charge against the religion. And Prabhupada immediately responds by saying this is a false charge. But first of all, he says there is no Hinduism. So the first thing he tries to make very clear to the person is that Hinduism by itself was a concocted statement. There is no such thing as Hinduism. What we have is Sanatan Dharma. What we have is Sanatan Dharma. So when we have Sanatan Dharma, which is the real religion, not Hinduism, which is something that has been created and it has been named and formatted. Sanatan Dharma, being the real religion, is applicable to everybody. It is not about being fatalistic, but it is about surrendering to a higher will. So let's see what he says about this whole thing. He says this concept of, so the whole idea is that we're not making any progress. Look at the statement here. It says it inhibits progress. So Prabhupada aims at those words. He says, what do you mean by inhibiting progress? What do you mean when you say you are progressing? And then he says, a dog's jumping about is also progress. A dog is running here and there on 4 legs, and man is driving around here and there on 4 wheels. Is that progress? The Vedic system is that human beings have a certain amount of energy, and their energy is better than the energy of the animals. It is better consciousness. That energy should be utilized for spiritual advancement. So the whole Vedic system is meant for spiritual advancement. Human energy is employed in a more exalted direction rather than running around like a dog. He basically says, don't compete with the dogs. Your energy is much higher and much better than that of the dog. And it is meant for self-realization. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.18 says, Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad brahmatam uparyatha tallabhyate dukkavad anyata sukham kalena sarvatra kabhira ramhasa. People who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the highest planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patal. As far as happiness for sense enjoyment is concerned, it can automatically be obtained in the course of time. Just as in the course of time, we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them. This is one of the things he brings up as a point supporting his claim that self-realization is something we should try for. All the other materialistic things will come of their own accord. We should not put our energy into that. Prahlad Maharaj also says this to his friends, Srimad Bhagavatam 7.6.3. Sukham aindriyakam daitya deha yogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivad yatha dukkham anyanta. My dear friends, anyatnata. My dear friends, material pleasure, which is due simply to this material body, is essentially the same in any body. Very important. That's what Srila Prabhupada is explaining. Material pleasure due simply to this material body is essentially the same in any body. And just as misery comes without our trying, so does happiness. The happiness we deserve will also come by higher arrangement, by higher arrangement. So he gives an example. Dogs mate, humans mate. Dogs will mate on the street, humans will mate in an apartment. The sense enjoyment, however, is very much the same. How have we advanced just because we are able to do something in the privacy of an apartment and we have this comfortable zone and space in which we are doing something? Does it make our energy being utilized in this manner any better or any more advanced than that of the animals around us? That is what Prabhupada is asking. If you're doing exactly what they're doing, how does that in any way qualify as progress? According to the different types of body, he says, sense enjoyment is enjoyed. And yet we say by enjoying sense enjoyment in a different quality of or level, we are more advanced. So he says the basic amount and quality of the pleasure has very well-defined limits. This is called destiny. So how much you can enjoy, how much you can get out of something is predestined. It's destiny. A pig has a certain type of body. He loves to eat stool. This is destined. You cannot change it, says Srila Prabhupada. Let the pig eat halwa. That's not going to happen. It's not possible. Because the soul has a particular type of body. He must eat a particular type of food. Can a scientist improve the standard of living of a pig? Is it possible, says Srila Prabhupada. So it says sometimes people misunderstand our logics. They think we're trying to escape. We don't want to work hard. We're lazy. These sages, they're trying for self-realization, but basically they're just lazy. They don't want to work hard and progress. They don't want to work hard and earn the money. They want to get it easy, free. And Srila Prabhupada says that that's just ignorance. He gives the example of a high court judge. And he says, you can look at a high court judge who's sitting nice, soberly, apparently sitting and doing nothing and getting the highest amount of salary. Another man in the same court, maybe the announcer and else, is working really hard all day long. He's rubber stamping, the admin rubber stamping, he's typing, he's getting on. He's not even getting 1/10 of the salary of that judge. He can start thinking, hey, I'm so busy working so hard, sitting on this bench all day. And this man, he just sits there and he gets 10 times the salary. I'm running around. I hardly get enough. This criticism of Hinduism Inhibiting progress is just like this example. It basically stems from ignorance, says Srila Prabhupada. Vedic civilization is for self-realization. It is not meant for sense gratification. It is meant for the intelligent person, not for the person who works like asses and dogs. But he who will try for that thing which he did not achieve in so many other lifetimes. It is for him that this life is offered. Vedic civilization is offered, namely self-realization. Materialistic workers, they see the person and think these men are not working like us, dogs and asses. So they are escaping. And Srila Prabhupada says, yes, they are escaping your fruitless endeavor. Because whatever you do, the amount of happiness and suffering that you're going to experience in this lifetime is predestined. And it comes to an end with this body. But you, being a soul, are going to travel through many, many such bodies unless you choose to find the purpose of your life and try to understand who you are and what is your connection with the Supreme, and thereby start your process back home, back to body. So to escape this fruitless endeavor, which is going to be repetitive and temporary and repetitive, why not understand the real purpose of the Vedic system? The Vedic system, then he attacks the second part. He says it's fatalistic, but he says no, Vedic system is not fatalistic. It's fatalistic only in the sense that one's material destiny cannot be changed. Don't work so hard for the things that are already accounted for, each to his appropriate share. So don't work hard there. But, says Srila Prabhupada, your spiritual life is in your hands. Just as you cannot check the distressing condition of life, similarly, you cannot check the happy condition of your life. It will come automatically. Therefore, don't waste your time with these things. Better you utilize your energy for advancing in Krishna consciousness. He gives an example of the Kumbh Mela. He says, you see these millions of people coming to the Kumbh Mela to take a bath in the Ganges because they are interested in becoming spiritually liberated from this material world. Do you think they are lazy? They have traveled thousands of miles to take bath in the Ganges at that holy place in Prayag. Although they are not busy like the dogs race, these are not people who are lazy, says Srila Prabhupada. He quotes Bhagavad Gita 269 in support of his point. He says, Yanisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami. What is night for the ordinary beings is a time of wakefulness for the self-controlled. A self-controlled man, what does he do? He wakes up practically in the middle of the night, wakes up at 3:34 in the morning. He's up, he's doing his japa, he's finishing his, does his oblations, he does his japa, he's getting ready for the day, he does his shastra. You are working when most dogs and asses are sleeping. We are working, but these spiritualists, they are not working, say the dogs and asses, but that's not true. We're working on a different platform. Prabhupada says there are two different platforms. So, there are two different platforms. So he says at the bottom, do nothing materially. Escape from their reality, the reality that is of the material-minded. Spiritual-minded people escape from that reality. They enter the reality that is real reality. They work on a platform that is different from the material platform. They work on the spiritual platform. And the followers of the Vedic civilization are not lazy. They're actually very, very busy. Varnasrama system sets an ultimate goal. Vishnu Aradhyet. So he says, what is the ultimate goal of our Varna and Ashrama system? The service of the Lord is our ultimate goal. So he says, you have to understand the difference between working as a materialist and working as a spiritualist. And by understanding that, this charge will be very obviously false. He wraps up by saying, as a question of fatalist, let me give an example to understand what you mean by, this concept of surrender or just accepting whatever comes. He says, let's think of a man who's condemned by court to hang. A man who's condemned by court to hang, nobody can stop it. Even the same judge who gave the verdict cannot stop it. He cannot check it. But if the man begs for the mercy of the king, like the president's pardon, the king can check the execution, just like we can get a president's pardon. Therefore, the Brahma Samhita 554 says, Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. Destiny can be changed by Krishna for his devotees. So the inevitability of our life, our destiny, can also be changed only if Krishna wants it to, by the mercy of the Supreme. So then why are we refusing to serve the Supreme, who is the only person who can make things happen? and who is our ultimate, he is our goal. He is our ultimate finish line. Why would we want to run any other race? Rather run the race to the right person, right? And that is how he wraps it up. He says, do nothing materially, do everything spiritually. Third question, concocted religion. So the third question takes us to this. It is said that the greatest strength of Hinduism is its Catholicity, or breadth of outlook, but that this is also its greatest weakness, in that there are very few common prescribed religious observances which are obligatory for all. As in other religions, is it necessary and possible to outline certain basic minimum observances for all Hindus? So again, he brings up the question of Hinduism, and he says Hinduism, if you see in India, there's Hinduism such a broad, wide base, and there's so many followers. And if you see, I'm basically from the southern part of India, and I noticed that travel 2 miles in any direction and things change. We're all Hindus, but the way we do stuff changes. You just have to go from one village to another to see, the processes slightly alter. And when we look at it, we say, and even home to home, the way I was trained for my family, certain processes, certain religious pujas and other stuff. When I went into my husband's family, I married, I realized theirs were a little different. And when I asked them, they said, well, this is how we've been doing it. So these traditions have been passed down from in the family, from mother to mother. And in that way, whatever modifications happen, they tend to be different in different families. Very interesting. So when he says, yes, the greatest strength of Hinduism is its Catholicity, its ability to bend and stretch and accommodate. That is the greatest strength of this religion. At the same time, it's its weakness because we don't have a standard script for everybody. We don't have a common prescribed format of observance. And why is it like that? Should we not have a basic minimum? And this is the question they put to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada turns it on its head, of course. First, he says, sorry, there is no such thing as Hindu Dharma. There is only Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan, by its very nature, means eternal and universal, the duty and nature of every living being. It is for all living entities, all living beings. That is why this Dharma is called Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma or Varna Ashrama Dharma. This is what we should follow. It is already prescribed. So he says, Varnasrama Dharma didn't just come from us. Krishna prescribes it. Krishna is the one who gave it to us. And we will hear more about it as we move into the next questions. But he explains very nicely in this that he says, nowadays, India, like the rest of the world, has also given up the real religious system, the Sanatan Dharma or Varnashrama Dharma. They have also accepted this hodgepodge thing called Hinduism. But that is not our real religion. That is not our true process. Something that Krishna defines. That is what we are following. So when we look at Varnashrama Dharma, there is Varnas and Ashramas. So Ashramas would be stages in your life where you choose a certain way of being. You are a brahmachari, then you are a grihastha, then you're a vanaprastha, and then you're a sannyasi. And then the varna would be the type or category of work that you do, which would qualify you as a brahmana, a kshatriya, a vaishya, and a sudra. So what state of growth are you in? That is one. What level in your growth as you live out your life? That would be one category. And what kind of work do you do? What are you suited for? What is the nature of your social obligation? What is your work? So that would be the other. And these two together come together to create our Varnashrama Dharma. And the purpose of this Varnashrama Dharma is not just to live like asses and dogs, but actually to bring the whole society together, unite us in a nice way so that we all build our livelihood, our way of life, and our social interactions based on our spiritual growth. It bases us on spiritual growth. So he says, he's asking, are there any basic minimum observances for Hindus? So we move on to explanation. He says, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita gives us these instructions. So why are there not instructions? Of course there are instructions. But the thing is, you need to find them. Krishna created the Varnasrama Dharma. Krishna told us in the Bhagavad Gita, but you have to accept and read. He says, Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So he's giving you an instruction here. He says, become my bhakta, become my devotee. Always think of me, work remembering me. And in this way, you can stay connected to me. And by staying connected to me and with your thoughts always dwelling on me, you will be able to attain me without fail. Another verse which comes up is Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. So in that verse, he says, just let go of all these little, all these commitments, these dharmas, these things that you need to do, must do, should do, and just let it go. Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Just take shelter under me. Come to me. I will take care of you. Everything will be resolved. And the third verse, which is the verse I was looking for, which is where we got the Varnasrama Dharma, is Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So he says, Chaturvarnyam, these 4 categories, I created them. They are based on your guna and karma, your nature and your karma. Based on that, you will fall in these categories. And by living in this way, you will be following my instruction, right? So these are Krishna's instructions. So Prabhupada says, it's there. There is a basic minimum a way of life. If you take to Krishna consciousness, you will also notice that there's also a way of life. As we go, the questions will come. That's why I said, I don't know if Prabhupada strung them together like that, but the questionnaire was so beautifully set. I have no way of finding out, but it has flown very nicely. And Krishna is personally advising to the person reading. He says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Give up all your concocted religions and just surrender unto me alone. And Prabhupada says, why? Please just take his advice and be happy. This is the base minimum for any Sanatan Dharmi, is to follow the advice of Krishna as he's advising us in the Bhagavad Gita. So the fourth question that pops up is caste system cast out. So now that we've come to the Varnashrama, the fourth question that tags along from this point is, will the fundamental values of Vedic religion be in any way affected by the eradication of the caste system, toward which a concerted effort is now being made at all levels? So those who know the Indian subcontinent and the politics behind it, we also know how the caste system has been very oppressive, and there have been efforts to alleviate the problems that it causes. And as a materialistic person, as a regular person asking a question, it makes complete sense. If the caste system goes away, does it affect our religion, our way of life? And Srila Prabhupada explains that question. He says, the Vedic system of religion we have been describing, the Varnashrama system created by Krishna, is not to be confused with the present-day caste system. This present-day caste system determines social divisions by birth. That was never in Krishna's plan. So he says, when you consider Sanatana Dharma, when you consider Varnashrama Dharma is not by birth. As a person starts to show his inclination, his nature, accordingly, he is placed in certain categories. A person who is young, who is yet to be married, is at a certain stage in life where he takes up Vedic knowledge, takes up the study of Vedic knowledge, he takes up tapasya, and he follows a certain process. When he gets to a marriageable age, he switches to another category where he has a different process. Similarly, a person who is truthful, who has all the qualities, sausham, the list of qualities of a brahmana, who have a tendency to be truthful, who has the inclination towards being brahmanical, can be trained towards that varna. So Krishna allows the individual to pick and choose his level based on his nature and his karma. They follow like that. But the caste system started happening a few hundred years before. Is different. It was enforced. A son of a Sudra had to stay a Sudra. A son of a Brahmana would automatically become a Brahmana. A son of Kshatriya would always be a Kshatriya. And this kind of division is not Varnashrama Dharma. So it doesn't affect us even if you take it away. Actually, it has nothing to do with us, says Srila Prabhupada. Then he says, remember that Varnasrama Dharma can never be taken away. Even if you eradicate the caste system, the natural nature of Varnasrama system, Varnasrama, can never be taken away. Because Krishna is the one who created those divisions. So what God creates, man cannot uncreate. That cannot be undone. The Vedic system can be adopted by all religions. And if you take it, society will... Just a second. Okay. Society will be perfect for all. So let's see what else Srila Prabhupada has been telling us. He says, Krishna himself says, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. This system of 4 social divisions according to work and qualities is ordained by me. So there is no idea of removal or destruction. The real system, Chaturvarnyam, means Guna Karma Vibhagasha. Division, determination of the social orders or division according to quality and work. You must be qualified to get that job. So if you want to be a Brahmana, what is the qualification you're looking for? How do you find the qualification in someone? He says, according to their qualities and work, people naturally belong to certain social groups. So even if you try to eradicate the so-called caste system, their natural tendency to fall in a certain group cannot be stopped. Therefore, these divisions will always exist. The system recommended by Krishna should be adopted. Instead, remove this caste system, adopt the Varnashrama system. You cannot abolish the truthful class of men. There can never be a time when you can say Brahmanas cannot exist, because Brahmanas are truthful by nature, and the nature of a truthful man can never be taken away. There will always be truthful men in society. So Srila Prabhupada says you will find truthful men everywhere. You just simply have to train them in their right categories. Our point is, wherever you go, you will find a first-class man who is truthful. Now, wherever you find a truthful man, you can classify him as a Brahmana. Then train him and serve the social body in that capacity as a spiritual teacher, as an advisor. What is the benefit of classifying, training people according to their own qualities and propensities? He says the benefit is that the whole social body will function harmoniously. When you do what you're suited for, when you work in a situation that is appropriate and apt to you, then you will function better. Society will be more harmonious. The social body must have a brain, it must have arms, a belly, and legs to be complete. If there is no brain, no head, then what is the use of the arms and legs and the belly? It's all dead. So, in human society, if there is not a class of learned, truthful men called Brahmanas, society will be ruined. You will not have anyone with those qualifications to guide or teach. We have got devotees from all groups of human society, and they are all taking part in our Vedic system. This is Srila Prabhupada talking about Krishna consciousness. He says it is practical and it is not difficult. The Vedic system, the Varnashrama system, can be applied by all religions everywhere. It is a system for all. It has nothing to do with the caste system. 5th. So we have 14. I'm not sure if we'll finish all of them today, but we'll give it a shot. It's really nice. 5th, eternal truths versus everyday realities. So this quote kind of doesn't give you the right connection. This is actually about the eternal truths. So let's see what they are. It says, so it talks about Shrutis and Smritis. The question is, it is said that whereas the Shruti embodies eternal truths and the Smritis embody rules of conduct, so the Shruti are eternal truths. Smritis are rules of conduct. Rules of conduct need to be revised according to the dictates of changing times. So how you behave, how you conduct yourself will change, right? According to change of time. Will such a view be acceptable to all sections of society? And if so, how can the new Smritis come into being? Who will give them sanction and sanctity? So this question is running on the assumption that because Shrutis are eternal truths, Shruti is a kind of collection of spiritual knowledge. Smritis are a different kind of collection of spiritual knowledge. So for those who don't know, this is all about spiritual knowledge. He says, Shrutis are eternal truths. Smritis are more like guiding truths. They are rules of conduct. So since rules of conduct need to be revised, can we revise the Smritis? This is the basic question. Srila Prabhupada starts off by saying, so first let's see what are Shrutis. Shrutis, the 4 original Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva, 4 Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Vedanta Sutras. They all fall under Shruti. They are embodied eternal truths. The Smriti are the Puranas, like the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and the corollaries, all the Vedic literature that come after that. So Shrutis are eternally relevant and constant, says Srila Prabhupada. Shruti, everything is based on Shruti, the basic Shrutis. And the Shrutis are the Vedas, Upanishads, and Vedanta Sutras. So everything is based on that. As the Vedanta Sutra says, Anavritti Shabdat, simply by chanting the Lord's name and instructions, his sound vibration, one becomes spiritually realized. Shabda Brahman means spiritual sound vibration. And as the Vedanta Sutra instructs us, by chanting the spiritual sound vibration, the instructions in holy name of the Lord, one, by chanting this, can become liberated. So what are Smritis? Smritis are directly based on these original Shrutis. The Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti. The Bhagavad Gita, as a Smriti, also says, Sadatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridavrata. Fully endeavoring with determination, the great souls are always chanting my glories. So it is in support of the first Shruti that says it is Shabda Brahma, sound, spiritual sound vibration. Vedanta Sutra instructs chanting these sound vibrations, one can become liberated. How? He says Satatam Kirtyantamam, by constantly chanting my names and glories. So this is application. Constantly chanting my name and glories and endeavoring with determination, application. We can apply this. So can you see the connection between the Shruti and the Smriti? The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Prabhupada says, is another Smriti, another Smriti. And in that it says, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatri Vidim Vina. I don't know if I have the full thing. No, I don't. So it talks about Shruti Smriti Puranadi, which is a verse. And in that it says, the great devotees heed both the Shrutis and the Smriti. You have to have both. Another Smriti, Brihad Nardiya Purana, also says, Harir Nam Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyata. In this age of coral, the only way to realize the Lord is to chant his holy name, chant his holy name, chant his holy name. Application. So the four original Vedas are all Shrutis. By simply hearing, why do we need a Smriti when we have the Shruti and the Smriti is an extension of the Shruti? Why do we need them? He says, the four original Vedas are all Shruti. Simply by hearing them, one cannot fully understand. Therefore, the Smritis help explain it further. The Smritis, Purayanti iti Purana, he says, Purayanti, completes, iti Purana. So it's called Purana because it completes. He says, by hearing the Puranas and other Smritis, one makes his understanding complete. The Vedic mantras are not always understood. So, for instance, the Vedanta, which is Shruti, begins with Mantra Janmadi Asya Yatha. The Supreme is that being from whom everything has emanated. Now, this is a very abbreviated statement. But the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a Smriti, explains Janmadi Asya Yatho Anvayat. Itaratas Charteshva Abhignaha Swarat. The Supreme Being from whom everything has emanated is directly and indirectly cognizant of everything and is fully independent. So this explains the first verse in a much easier and more expanded, elaborate way for our understanding. In this way, so this is a standing example Shri Prabhupada was giving. He's saying, in this way, Smriti explains Shruti. Whether you take Shruti or Smriti, the subject matter is always going to be the same. Both Shruti and Smriti are spiritual evidence, and we cannot do without either of them. So he supposed this was one more statement from Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 10101. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpataeva Kalpate. You cannot become purified or actually God conscious without referring to both Shruti and Smriti. So there it popped up. Nothing can be changed. This is the answer to the second part of the question. Can we create new Smritis? Who will create them? Who has the power? Who has the authority to sanction? He says, nothing can be changed. Shruti or Smriti, you can't touch either of them. There is no way to alter, adapt and all. That's not acceptable. He says, nothing can be changed, but according to the time, you have to apply the principles properly. For instance, in Kali Yuga, the Smriti order is Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet. To obtain spiritual liberation, one must chant the holy name of Lord Hare Krishna. So you have to do it. It's not like you have options here. He says, for instance, a doctor may order, in the morning, take this medicine. In the evening, take that medicine. It is not a change of doctor's orders that you're changing medicine morning and evening. No, it's simply that according to the time, the doctor's order calls for a particular medicine. But the particular medicine is recommended by the doctor not because of your whims. Shruti and Smriti similarly cannot be changed. They may be recommending a particular process at a particular time. So they must be adhered to, and they must be adhered to both Smriti and Shruti. They are both scriptural authority and both cannot be modified. So who sanctions these changes? Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that these changes are mostly sanctioned by Krishna. So we see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu modified it for us. When he came, he offered us the holy name and he said, you chanted in the age of Kali, this will give you he was giving us the break we so sorely needed. He didn't give it just because we deserved it or we wanted it. We gave it because in that time, place, and circumstance, that is the adaptation that worked best. Question number 6. The ultimate knowledge. In Kali Yuga, the current age of quarrel and hypocrisy, bhakti, devotional service to the Lord, has been described as the most suitable, easiest path for God realization. How is it that Vedantic teachings, with their accent on jnana, are being given the pride of place by noted savants? So he says, if in Kali, bhakti is the main thing, it's the easiest thing to do, why is that not getting, what do you call it? Why is it not getting the spotlight? Why are they offering the spotlight to other things? And Srila Prabhupada, in answer to this, gets a little sharp, and he says, well, Mayavadis, the impersonalists, this is Prabhupada, okay, Mayavadis, the impersonalists are bluffers. They're bluffing their way through things. He says, they don't know what Vedanta is, says Srila Prabhupada. He says, the two words in Vedanta, Veda, Anta. Veda means knowledge, Anta means goal. So Vedanta means the end of knowledge, of all knowledge, the goal of knowledge, right? So now in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Vedesha sarve ahameva vedya. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. So the whole Vedanta Sutra is just a description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first statement in the Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now we have attained a human birth. Let's inquire about Brahman, the absolute truth. Brahman is then described as Janmadi Asya Yatha. Brahman is the origin of everything. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. I am the origin of everything. So again, Vedanta Sutra is actually describing Krishna. See how sweetly he has just, when he strings the pearls, they look so pretty. So he says, and Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. I am the origin of everything. So again, the Vedanta Sutra is actually describing Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he says, Srimad Bhagavatam 1-10, it goes, Kamasya Nendriya Pritir Labho Jiveta Yavata. Jivasya Tattva Jignasa Natho Yascheta Karma Vihi. Life's desire should never be directed. Remember, we did this before. Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only healthy life and self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's work. So he's bringing it back to the point that what is the purpose? What is Vedanta? Vedanta means trying to understand the Lord. He says, Sri Vyasadev knew in Kali, people could not understand. They would not be able to study Vedanta Sutra nicely on account of this issue of Kali, the lack of education, lack of focus. So he personally wrote a commentary for the Vedanta Sutra, and that is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhashyam Brahma Sutranam, the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the real commentary on the Vedanta Sutra written by the author of the Vedanta Sutra himself. Mayavadis, without understanding Vedanta Sutra, without reading the real commentary Srimad Bhagavatam, they are posing themselves as Vedantists. The Mayavadi Vedantists follow the impersonal commentary of Shankaracharya, Sharikrika Bhashya. But there are other commentaries. They don't read any of those, he says. Besides the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a natural commentary, there is the Vedanta Bhashyas written by the Vaishnava Acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, Vishnu Swami, Baladev Vidyabhushan. Unfortunately, they don't care to read any of these. They simply read Sharirika Bhashya and then they call themselves Vedantists. He says the Vedantists should know the purpose of Vedas. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. He says, after many births. So how will you actually understand the purpose of the Vedas? He says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After many births, those who strive to acquire this knowledge, after many, many births, when actually by the grace of God and by the grace of a devotee, they come to knowledge, then such persons agree, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. Oh, Krishna is everything. Such a person is very, very rare, very difficult to find such a great soul. So the Vedanta Sutra and the Srimad Bhagavatam, the content and the conclusion are all the same. The real Vedanta is this 1 to 10, which we just read. And 1 to 10 says that the real purpose of the Vedas, put your life into understanding the absolute truth and making him the goal of one's life. That is the whole thing. So when they call themselves Vedantis, what are they saying? Says Srila Prabhupada. 7, getting spiritual guidance. So it says, now this has come to it will keep moving into practicals. He says, is a guru essential for one to enter the spiritual path and attain the goal? How does one recognize one's guru? So Srila Prabhupada says, yes, guru is essential. And when you ask why, he says, Bhagavad Gita 2:3. Look at Arjuna. Arjuna says, Karpanya dosho bhavat svabhavat prichhami tvam dharma samhura cheta yashreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyaste aham sadhimam tvam prapannam. Now I am confused about my duty. I have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple, a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So says Srila Prabhupada, Guru is necessary. Like Arjuna, everybody is perplexed about his best course of action. Nobody is qualified to decide by himself. Because of the way we live, the way we are in today's society, we don't have the ability at all. And Prabhupada gives the example of a physician. He says, even a physician, when he is sick, he does not devise his own treatment. Have you seen a physician, surgeon operating on himself? It has to be somebody else. So in the same way, he says, a physician, when he's sick, he does not devise his own treatment. He calls for another physician because his brain is not in order. How can he prescribe the right medicine for himself? There's a beautiful example. Similarly, when we are perplexed and cannot find any solution, at that time, Guru is essential. It is therefore essential for everyone to surrender to a Guru, since in our present existence, we are all perplexed. Arjuna is representing the perplexed position of all us materialistic people. So in these circumstances, Guru gives us real direction. Like Arjuna, we should also accept a Guru who can instruct us on how to get relief from our current position. So Krishna is a Guru not only for Arjuna, but for everyone. So he's explaining like this, he says, because Karpanya dosha, because of these challenges of who I am and how I am, I need guidance. Therefore, I need Guru. This applies to every human being. Krishna is the Param Guru. He's the real Guru, the original Guru. And his instructions are sitting in the Bhagavad Gita. Take them, please. And also, you need your own Guru, right? Somebody who can guide you. So, tad vijñārtam sagurum eva bhigacchit. Let me find that. I don't know if I got that here. There's so many layers. Okay, tad vijñārtam sagurum. So here it is. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam shabde pare cha nishnantam brahmani upasamashrayam. A person who seriously desires real happiness must, so see, it's not optional, must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. Very clearly. The qualification of the bona fide Guru is that, so who is real Guru? Qualification is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. So the real Guru, who is the real Guru? So it goes on at 111, 321, and then I think he goes on for the next two as well. He continues to see who are these Gurus, what kind of Gurus. And then he says, a real Guru. Who is a real Guru? One who has seen the truth. Somebody who has seen the truth, just like Arjuna did, or Krishna himself. So it's Krishna or one who has seen Krishna. And because we are in the parampara that starts from Vivashvan, Manave Praha, Manu, Ishvaka Bravid, Ishvaku. So it keeps going down in the dynasty as we follow down. And then the line gets cut and Krishna starts a new line, a new parampara with Arjuna, from where we flow through. So if you remember in the Bhagavad Gita, we are in the parampara. So what's the benefit of being in the parampara? It means that we are plugged into the right current. So the gurus that follow in the footsteps of these acharyas, these mahajanas, these great devotees, they also get the mercies extended down towards them. So when we say, oh, Arjuna, he's gone, and then Krishna, oh, he's not there either. What am I to do? We look for the parampara. We look for a authentic parampara from whom we can take this instruction. So tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya pratikshanti jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. What do you do with the guru? You follow. You humbly seek to serve him, ask questions so you may clarify, and in this process you can get knowledge from him. So this is what it starts. The questions actually flow further and further as we go along in the book. This was my point, that Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasad. We say this every time when we sing the Guru prayers, and it's there that if we please Guru, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasado. By getting the mercy of Guru, we get the mercy of Krishna, and without the mercy of Guru, nothing is possible. So Guru is starting point. When we have Guru, then Guru is like our personal GPS. He sets the course for us, finds the easiest path, and knowing our nature, knowing our tendencies, he keeps us on track and finds the most suitable way to get us home. So Guru is very essential. Next question, question 8. Civilization is meant for civilization means regulation. What does that mean? It says, are fasting and other dietary regulations necessary for leading a spiritual life? Why do we have to fast? Why do we have to do all these things? And Prabhupada says, of course, certainly. For advancement in spiritual life, tapasya is essential. Tapasya, human life is meant for tapasya. Sometimes you look at it and say, well, was I meant to suffer? And he says, well, tapasya is not, we don't qualify it as suffering. It's just what you have to do. Tapasya means voluntarily accepting something which may be painful. For instance, the 4 regulative principles, says Srila Prabhupada. No intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating. These are bad habits. Those who are accustomed to these bad habits, for them in the beginning, it will be difficult to let go. But in spite of this difficulty, one should do it. Why? Because the process of spiritual life is sin-free. You cannot go down that road carrying all the load of all this sin. The cleaner we are in the process of purification. Cleaner we are, the better off we are. So following these regulations helps us live a cleaner and more sin-free life. It allows us to focus on God realization. Those who are accustomed to bad habits, they might have difficulty, but in spite of this difficulty, one has to do it. This is called tapasya. According to Vedic injunctions, there are some tapasyas that must be done. Mukunda Upanishad, it is ordered that if one wants to be self-realized, one must approach a spiritual master. Tad vijñānārtam sagarum eva vigachet. There is no question or option, it must be done. And one must carry out the order of spiritual master and the order of the Shastra or scripture. When you follow without consideration of whether it is convenient or inconvenient, simply because it must be done, then this is called tapasya or divine effort, tapo divyam. People do not follow any tapasya in the present moment, but human life is meant for tapasya, says Srila Prabhupada. Regulative principles. We are a best example of our daily tapasya. Even in ordinary affairs, he says, think of a material world. If you're driving your car and you have some urgent business, you're driving fast, you see red light, you have to stop. You cannot say, oh, I have to be there very fast, so I'm just going to go. You can't. You must stop. That is material tapasya. Similarly, for tapasya, following regulative principles strictly, according to the higher order, is tapasya for human life. Animal life, no problem. You can do whatever you want. On the road, animal may keep right, animal may keep left. It doesn't matter. The irregularity is not an offense. Nobody's going to lock up the animal. Nobody's going to fine it. But if a human being does not follow regulative principles, he is sinful and he will be punished. So Srila Prabhupada is comparing these two things. Same example, red light. If you don't stop, you'll be punished. But if a cat or dog runs a red light, he's not punished. So tapasya is meant for humans. It's meant for a human being. He must do it. If at all he wants to make any progress in life, tapasya is essential. So question is, does tapasya apply to diet? So of course, tapasya applies. Diet is only one part of a bigger picture. He says, tapasya means mental tapasya, bodily tapasya, verbal tapasya. So he says, vacho vegam, controlling your tongue, the urge to talk loosely and whimsically. You have to control that. If you want to talk, you must talk about Krishna. That is tapasya. Tapasya is also with krodho vegam. You have to control the urge to express your anger. If one becomes angry and wants to express it by beating someone or doing something violent, tapasya will restrain him. No, don't do it. There is tapasya regarding the tongue, the belly, the genitals. You cannot eat anything and everything, or at any time you feel like. You cannot mate freely. You can only do it according to spiritual injunctions. I am inclined, but I cannot do it. This is not the time. That is tapasya. One should practice tapasya daily, says Srila Prabhupada. Body, mind, words, behavior, and dealings. It should all be followed. Tapo Divya. If you want to simply be a human being, especially if you want to make spiritual progress, act according to the Shastric injunctions. Before Brahma could take part in creation, even Brahma, he had to undergo tapasya. Is it not stated in the Shastra? Of course, tapasya is essential. So how can we assume we can avoid it? And what is the aim of doing tapasya? It says the aim is to please the Supreme Lord through the spiritual master. The aim of tapasya is to please the spiritual Lord, to please the Lord through the spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadat. There it is again. One can attain the mercy of the Lord only through the mercy of the spiritual master. This is the idea. 9. Cleansing the heart. Literally translated as the mirror of the heart. Cheto darpana marjanam. Let's see what the question is. What is the role of rituals in religion? Are they to be discouraged, as is being advocated by some reformists, or are they to be encouraged? If so, in what form? Do we still need religion? Do we still need rituals in religion? So Srila Prabhupada says, generally, unless one undergoes these ritualistic ceremonies, he remains unclean. That is a general stand. Purification. These rituals are all meant for purification. So statement, ritual is a practice based on tapasya done for purification. Srila Prabhupada is amazing. Everything, advancement of spiritual life, culture, tapasya, all of this is meant to cleanse the heart. And in this process of chanting the Maha Mantra, the first installment of benefit is the cleansing of the heart. So he says, all these things we do, these rituals in religion are meant to cleanse. But in this age, it's practically impossible for us to induce people to take up these ritualistic processes. So the scriptures and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommend just chant. Chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is the special benefit of this age. Special benefit of his age is the constant chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which automatically purifies us. In his Shikshashtakam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about Cheto Darpana Marjanam, the last point. He says, the beginning is cleansing the heart. Because we are impure on account of dirty things within our heart, accumulated lifetime after lifetime, everything, advancement of spiritual life, culture, tapasya, are all meant to clean this dirt on the heart. When the heart becomes clean, then the person becomes eligible for being freed from the clutches of Maya. So what is this chanting doing? Cleaning the heart. A clean heart helps us break free from Maya. By breaking free from Maya, we get to the point of recognizing, I am not this body. And at that point, the spirit soul finally realizes his business. I'm not the body. What am I? What am I doing here? And then we start, therefore, our business, once we realize our business, our material concerns start to change. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agam dunvanti katsneya niharam eva bhaskara. Just as when the sun rises, all pervading fog immediately disappears, so in Kali, by the process of bhakti, especially by chanting the mantra Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, all of one's sins are eradicated and one becomes fully reformed. In other words, one comes to the spiritual platform and makes a success of his life. So that is the cleansing of the heart. Question number 10. These, I think, will get shorter now. There are various samskars or purification ceremonies prescribed for every civilized person from birth to death. Many of these samskars are not being observed today. Should they be revived? Srila Prabhupada says, yeah, I think that to the extent possible, we should revive them, but only the essential ones. For the rest of them, let's just chant. What does he mean by that? Let's look at it. He says, the real aim of a sanskar is to make a rascal, to bring a rascal to the platform of knowledge. A rascal is a word Srila Prabhupada likes. Basically, it means to bring a person who has no knowledge of spirituality to the platform of knowledge. Janmadi Janmana Jayate Sudra. By birth, everyone is a Sudra. In other words, everyone is born without knowledge. The purpose of the samskars is to gradually bring him, a person who has no knowledge, to the spiritual platform. As it is said, samskarat bhaved vija. Only by samskar he gets his spiritual rebirth. Therefore, samskars are essential. There are almost dashavida samskar, 10 kinds of samskars, purificatory processes. But in this age, it's very difficult to follow them. The alternative, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevala. Chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, try to do it without offense, under the guidance of a spiritual master. And all these samskars automatically become fulfilled and one returns to his original spiritual position. Should these processes be revived? They can be revived as far as necessary, but all of them cannot be revived in this age. So please keep chanting. Chanting is the only way to cleanse ourselves without the required samskars currently being available. Then all reformation will be there when you chant. Brahmabhuta prasannatma. One who has a realization of Brahman becomes happy. Na sochati, na kankshati. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu madbhakta labate param. He will see everyone on the same spiritual platform, and finally, in this way, he will come to the platform of devotional service and make his life successful. So there is a life of vice and there's a life of piety. They are two sides of the same coin. You need to pick and choose how you're going to follow. The samskars or purification ceremonies, if we depend only on them, we will fall short. Most important and easiest, most magnanimous offer that we have received, having arrived in this body in Kali Yuga, is the chanting of the holy name. We should grab onto this one-time opportunity, special discount sale, so to speak, and grab onto it and find our way back home. Feel the oneness with the difference. So this brings Dvaitam and Advaitam. Is it not possible for all kind of spiritualists, be they Advaitis or Dvaitis or Vishishta Advaitis, to come together instead of remaining isolated as warring factions? He says, why you guys all, there's so many factions. Can you guys all not come together and work together? After all, you're looking for spirituality, right? Why do you have to be warring factions? He says, yes, it's possible, says Srila Prabhupada. Of course, if everybody is willing to follow the process set by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Prabhupada is not being adamant or opinionated. He's just sharing the truth. He says, the process set by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva that he's propounding, is the real process. We are neither one nor are we separate. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. That is what we are. If they can understand that and take to the process as set by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we can all work together. Let's see the points. The Advaitis wrongly think that he's absolutely one with God. He himself is God. This is wrong. How can you become God? God is Sad Aishwarya Purnam, full of 6 opulences. He has power, wealth, beauty, fame, knowledge, all renunciation. This Advaitan idea is artificial. The Dvaitans stress that one is utterly different from God. God is separate from the living being. But actually, the Bhagavad Gita, we understand living entities are part and parcel of God. Nityo Nityanam, Chetanas Chetananam, Eko Bahunan, Vidadati Kaman. The difference between the two is that God maintains the living entities. This is the fact. We are maintained, God is the maintainer. We are predominated, we are not independent. God is the predominator. But because the predominated living entities are part and parcel of God, in quality, they are one with God. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Achintya Bheda Bheda philosophy covers all these points. The living entities are simultaneously one with and different from God. Living entity is one in the sense that he is part and parcel of God. So if God was gold, living entity would also be gold, says Srila Prabhupada, the oneness in the quality. But God is great and we are minute. And in that way, by the size, the greatness, and the minuteness, we are different. This is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enunciates this philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda. Mamevamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasyastani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. So this is the explanation in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna gives. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmented parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. This is Bhagavad Gita 15:7. Question number 12. As the world is coming to be divided into just 2 classes, atheists and theists, those who believe in God, those who don't believe in God. That's the kind of division that's coming up. Is it not advisable for all religions to come together because they all believe in God? What are the positive steps that can be taken in this direction? How can we bring? So this is a extension of previous question. Srila Prabhupada says the atheists and the theists will always exist. This is the nature of the material world. Even at home, the father may be an atheist like Hiranyakashipu and the son would be a theist like Prahlad. Atheists and theists will always exist in the family, in the community, even in the nation. He says, but the theists, following the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, giving up other so-called religious principles, they can come together and be together in religious unity. Religion without a clear conception of God is humbug. Do you see, we've come back to question number 1. Religion without a clear understanding of who is God is just humbug. If your religion teaches you to love God, then that religion is perfect. The rest of them are all misleading, says Srila Prabhupada. Real religion is that which teaches us how to love God. Savai pumso paro dharma yato bhaktir admukshaje. So there's another point he gives. Religion means to accept the order of God. So if you don't have a clear conception of who is God, if you don't know who God is, where is the question of accepting his order? So how will you follow? Because religion is always, it's all about following the instructions. So when one loves God, one reaches the platform where he thinks, oh Lord, I love you. I can sacrifice everything for you. And that is the basic principle of religion. So if one can reach that platform, then they can work together in unity. Bhagavad Gita can create that common platform for everybody, because the Gita is an instruction by Krishna to all living beings. It can be applied to all religions. But the real religions are the ones that teach you to love God. The other ones don't, he says, are only misleading. Real religious principles are enacted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although fully situated in the mode of goodness, even the great rishis, all of them could not ascertain the real religious principles. So this is from SB 6390. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam na vai vidur rashayo na api deva na siddha mukhya asura manushya kuto na vidya charanatya. So the real religious principles are enacted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although fully situated in the mode of goodness, most of them cannot understand it. They cannot ascertain the real religious principles. So what does this mean? It goes on into verse 20 and 21. Srila Prabhupada continues with those verses, and then he comes to the point. He says, Mahajanas. Mahajanas like Brahma, Narada, Shiva, and so on, they know what the principle of religion are. Very difficult for people to find out. Only they will know. Religion means Bhagavata Dharma, understanding God and our relationship with God. Religion means understanding God and our relationship with God. This is religion. You may call it Hindu religion, Muslim religion, Christian religion. In any case, real religion teaches you how to love God. So he's back to the same point in the previous question. Your religious system is perfect, then. Otherwise, it's a waste. There are Mahajanas even in the Christian saints. They include Christ. And in addition to Christ, there's Saint Matthew, Saint Thomas, and so forth. These Mahajanas are mentioned in the Bible. A Mahajana is one who strictly follows the original religion and knows things as they are. And that means he must be coming to the parampara, the system of disciplic succession. He must be coming through the parampara, in the parampara. So Arjuna learned the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna. Therefore, Arjuna is a Mahajan. So you learn from Arjuna, you follow Arjuna's way and act in that way and understand the way Arjuna understood Krishna. Then Mahajano yena gathasa pantha. You are following the Mahajanas. You are on the real path. Remember the Guru? When we got to the point where we were discussing how to follow parampara, it's answered here. So this is how you follow the path. Arjuna may not be here, but you're following his path, and therefore you have taken the mercy of the Mahajanas. You're on the real path, just as we are in Krishna consciousness, says Srila Prabhupada. Which is the best religion? How do we love someone? Did I skip? Okay, this is continuation. So it says, so the question is, how do we love God? So what is the best religion? The best religion is one that teaches you to love God. How do you love someone? The Upadesha, this was a very nice one I picked up. Updeshamrita gives us Dadati pratikrishnati gukhyam akhyati prichati bhunkte bhojete chaiva shatvidim priti lakshanam. And I used to think this is between devotees. But he says, how do you love somebody, anybody? You give and receive, you share from the heart, you talk it out, right? You give and share food, you eat, you offer food to them. This is how you get to connect with them and you learn to love them. So he says, first you know God, then learn to love God by using these expressions as described in the Upadeshamrita. Bhagavad Gita in all is an 18-chapter education on how to know God. The minimum knowledge one should have to know God is, you should at least know God is so great. With this minimum knowledge, you can get started on your path. the way to peace. Do you envision a different role for the Vedic culture in Western countries where the influence of other great religions have been felt for centuries? He says, there's no different role for Vedic culture. Everything is in Vedic culture. You just need to follow. There may have been other great religions there for other centuries, but God is one. There are no 2-3 gods here. So there is no comparison. There is no question. Everything is in the Vedic culture because this is the culture of Krishna consciousness, summarized in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has no religious context. It is a Sanatan Dharma. It's an expression of Sanatan Dharma. Therefore, can be applied by anybody. Bhagavad Gita as it is becoming effective. This is not a different role. It is the actual role. Nobody has tried for it. Therefore, Krishna has been unknown in Western countries. But even though we have been attempting to introduce him for just a few years, because it is reality, Krishna consciousness is being accepted. He says, because we're bringing the truth, the reality, it is being accepted. It is not a new role for Vedic culture. The role has always been there. The role is to preach Krishna consciousnus. This was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's vision, especially for the people born in India. Bharata bhumite manushya janma hoile yara janma sarthakakari kara para upakara. Anyone who has taken birth as a human being in India, Bharatvarsha, should make his life successful and work for the upliftment of the whole world, because all over the world, people are unaware of Krishna. So anybody born in India should take it upon himself to attempt to broadcast the message of the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. This is the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's not a new role. The role is already there. 500 years ago, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke of it. A lot of swamis and yogis came here, but they never introduced Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now it's being done, therefore people are naturally accepting. So if everybody joins, Indian or non-Indian, this is the moment. There will be one religion and there will be peace. Peace will prevail. This is the only way. He says, we are just introducing the truth. Nobody else did it, and we're doing it. And because it is the truth, it is being accepted. Last question. Return to real life. What is your view regarding proselytizing or preaching? So this is straight from Srila Prabhupada, because I found that's the only way to approach it. We are bringing people back to their real position, giving them real understanding that everyone is a part and parcel of Krishna. This movement is not some kind of rubber stamp proselytizing. You were Christian, now you're Hindu. After all, if one does not know what his position is, what benefit will he derive by simply being stamped Hindu? He will still be in ignorance of his real spiritual identity. So we are not here to stamp people. You were this, now you have become that. If you keep someone on the ignorant platform, what is the benefit of making a Christian or a Muslim into a Hindu? No, artificially changing someone into a Hindu will not help. One must know the philosophy of life. One must know what God is. One must learn how to love God. That is real life. So this wraps up the book. I think we're just in time. Wait, 3 more minutes. Just in time. I'm very happy I was able to wrap it up. I didn't want to miss such beautiful questions. A flow of 14 questions that take us from the beginning to the end, covers a huge, a wide range of questions dealing with day-to-day. These are questions we meet when we meet people. These are questions that confront us. And because we're still learning, when we're not actually full-fledged acharyas, we're not full-fledged preachers, sometimes we struggle to be able to give the exact connection. Transferring our faith into a verbal instruction or a verbal guidance is a challenge for many of us. And in the process of transferring that which we keep in our hearts into that which can be spread by the mouth, we have to be able to understand the basics of the movement, understand the basics of the philosophy. And these kind of questions, the answers that Srila Prabhupada gave to these kind of questions help us bridge that gap. For me, this was a very purifying, I enjoyed reading the book and I enjoyed learning it. Thank you for listening to this presentation. With gratitude to my Guru Maharaj and to senior Vaishnavas who considered giving me this opportunity and begging forgiveness for any mistakes or offenses, and giving all credit to my Gurus and taking all fault. Thank you so much for listening. Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat.
Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. It was so
Very
nice.
welcome.
It was so nice to cover the entire book, because we don't have such presentations available, and it's so nice to have one like this. Thank you so much, Mataji. There was so much clarity in whatever you delivered. I really like the discussion on Sanatan Dharma. I like the discussion on, why austerities or why rituals.
Yes.
So these things are definitely questions that we encounter. So that was very, very nicely covered by Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much for this wonderful session.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. If anybody has any questions or comments, if they have noticed anything off in anything I said, please correct. Or if you have anything to add, we'd love to hear your realization.
Hare Krishna, Manjula Kantha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Prabhupada.
Yes, Prabhupada. This is which book you said? Is this perfect question? No.
Actually, I thought of perfect question, perfect answers a lot when I was reading this book, because these are perfect questions and perfect answers. But this is Civilization and Transcendence.
Okay.
It's amazing how much we take for granted when we come to Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada, these are all drops of sweat, these books. He worked really hard to give us all he had. He squeezed the last drop out for us. Every question anybody asked, he answered with the deepest of sincerity. And I was thinking when I was preparing for this, how grateful I am, how obliged, how much we owe to those Vaishnavas who recorded his words so nicely. They kept it all written record for us so we could get these books. I can read them. One generation across, I am reading. My children will read them. My grandchildren will read them because of the service of these Vaishnavas who kept his word, who were able to record his word for posterity. The ability, like Srila Prabhupada says, of an Acharya to present the philosophy is very different from somebody like me. But if I lean on the Acharya, then through the mercy of the Parampara, I can help him spread the message that much farther. Just like the capillaries, we're all the fingertips, the pumpings in the heart, Srila Prabhupada. But fingers can do quite a lot if they stay connected. So like that, if we stay connected to Srila Prabhupada, it reminded me of very important that we should always stay connected to Srila Prabhupada. Vaisheshika Maharaj, he recommends we keep listening to Srila Prabhupada. We have these little radios of Srila Prabhupada. We can listen to his lectures daily. He recommends we keep listening. And, as a disciple, second recommendation is to keep listening to your Guru Maharaj's lectures. But these books are not in the lectures, right? Those are lectures that he preached. So I just wanted that these books be opened up to people one more time, that they can see what's in them.
The title is very significant actually, because he talks about civilization. He means the current civilization, right? Yes. And how that transcendence, the things which comes from transcendence, we don't take everything, but we take all the essential thing and we adapt the rest, like regarding rituals and all. He keeps on answering those questions and again, like how is it relevant to today's civilization and the transcendence?
And he connects them very nicely.
Yeah.
How question 1 and question 13 connected is just Acharya.
Yeah.
It's just, that's his brilliance, the way he's able to, I couldn't see the threads, but he had finished stitching, When I was reading it, I could see him pattern finished. And I was like, wow. Yeah. But it took me 3 reads to see a pattern. First time, I'm just trying to grab points. The second time, I'm trying to figure out what are the notes. And the third time, I'm like, oh, there's more here.
Yeah.
Actually, it's difficult to let go because everything he says is so nectarian. You really don't want to delete or remove anything because you're not qualified to pick and choose what is important and what is not.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's only 85 pages, Prabhu. So maybe this month, if everybody has a chance, my sincerest request would be for the month of February. It's a Valentine's month. Express your love for Srila Prabhupada by reading one of his small little gems. Take the time, like he took the time for us. Read a little bit more of his work.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for...
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Panchakalpatarabhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha putrachrupa.
Manjula Kantha Mataji ki jai.
Jai. Very nice class.
Thank you so much for coming. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice lecture, Mataji. Very nice.
Thank you, Mataji.